after the gravity filtration is complete, we are going to add 10 milliliter of the 6 molar hydrochloric acid. And you see that as I'm adding, the white precipitate is forming. And this is in the acidic solution, benzoic acid that's formed is insoluble. We want to make sure the solution is acidic, especially if you don't have this white precipitate form. You have to check the acidity to make sure that solution is acidic. And if the precipitate forms, it's kind of obvious that it is acidic because benzoic acid is not soluble in acidic, but it is soluble in basic solution. So if the solution is still basic, you should not get precipitate. So just adding the rest of the 10 milliliter of the HCl that I had measured. I place in ice bath for complete precipitation. I usually do this for like 5 minutes to make sure that the mixture is cold enough for complete precipitation. After the 5 minutes of the cooling, we would vacuum filter. We are going to separate the crystals using a vacuum filtration. After we have this mixture in the ice for 5 minutes for complete precipitation, then we want to use the vacuum filtration apparatus to separate the crystals that have formed already. For that, we first of all want to connect the vacuum filtration apparatus, the Buchner funnel, to the vacuum system. This is the vacuum valve. We want to place a trap. So the purpose of the trap here is to make sure that no liquid would go into the vacuum system. So when you have a trap, you would connect one of the hoses to the vacuum flask and the other hose to the vacuum valve. We are using a proper size of filter paper for the Buchner funnel, but since we are going to measure the mass of the product, I want to make sure that I have the mass of the filter paper before the filtration and with the watch glass. Press the tare to make sure that is 0 and place the watch glass with the filter paper to record the mass. The mass is 32.069, and I'm going to also take a picture. Place the pre-weighed filter paper in the Buchner funnel. Add a few drops of water so it doesn't move. The filter paper doesn't move around. Turn on the vacuum. And pour the mixture over the filter paper. Vacuum is on. We put all the mixture into the Buchner funnel, and to make sure there is no leftover of the crystals, we use some cold water, the water that was previously placed in the ice bath, some cold water, and transfer that. By transferring over the crystals, we're going to wash the crystals with the cold water and run the vacuum for 5 minutes to make sure that all the solvent is removed and is almost dry before we put it back in the oven. I would transfer after the 5 minutes vacuuming. I'm going to transfer the filter paper with the crystals into the watch glass. I place in the oven. The temperature of the oven is higher than the boiling point of the solvent that we are using, but it's lower than the melting point of the product. So I'm going to wait for the 5 minutes vacuum. Okay, 5 minutes vacuum filtration is up. Going to remove Buchner funnel, and to transfer the crystals from the Buchner funnel into the watch glass, often students are asking, how would you do that? It's the same thing as like when you are baking cake. Sometimes you just flip it over and you flip the crystals with the filter paper. Sometimes you slide the spatula underneath the paper and remove the paper and transfer. As long as you transfer the paper, because it's pre-weighed already, and all of the crystals, so there is no right or wrong way, as long as you can transfer everything into the watch glass. After transferring, we're just going to place in the oven. The oven is already heated. It shows like 104, which is higher than the boiling point of the solvent we are using. We wait for 5 minutes for the solvent to dry, and we take the sample, measure the mass, and measure the melting point. We need the mass and the melting point to write our lab reports.